Hi, my name is Mary, and today I'll be talking about memory loss in romance movies. So having grown up on these movies, I've found that memory loss serves as a really common trope in the genre, and is featured in a lot of films such as The Notebook, 50 First Dates, and The Vow. Having kind of delved into different types of memory loss in my cognitive psych class this semester, I wanted to evaluate the accuracy of these on-screen depictions. So perhaps one of the better known of these Hollywood love stories that's doomed to forgetting is The Notebook. The story follows an older gentleman, Noah, as he reads to his wife the story of how they fell in love in order to rekindle her memory of him. While it's not explicitly stated in the film, it's assumed that the character Allie is suffering from Alzheimer's. Allie begins the movie not remembering her husband or the story of how they met. It's revealed through dialogue that he spent years reading the story to her, and that she's come to remember less and less frequently. The movie correctly portrays that Alzheimer's typically affects episodic memory, or memory of one's own life, before semantic memory, which is memory of knowledge or facts. But while early stages of Alzheimer's seem to affect short-term memory, in the movie Allie seems to have no problem remembering the story she's just heard, yet cannot seem to remember long-term memories such as the events of her own life. The climax of the movie comes when Noah reaches the end of the story, and Allie finally remembers that they themselves are the subject of it. The scene is slightly problematic in its depiction of Alzheimer's in that she somehow has no long-term memory and cannot place that the story is about her, although he uses her name, or even recognize that any one of the points in the story at least resemble her own life, much less copy it beat for beat. This portrayal of Alzheimer's is also unrealistic in that, although Allie seems to only be in the moderate stages of Alzheimer's, she spends nearly the entirety of the movie in a fog. She then drastically emerges, suddenly remembering her entire life story, before forgetting minutes later and devolving to a state of confusion and aggression, again completely forgetting her husband's identity. The transition between these two states is played up for drama, and while these behaviors might make more sense if the character were in an advanced stage of Alzheimer's, she doesn't show other symptoms such as hallucinations, difficulty swallowing or controlling bowel movements, and trouble moving on her own. The movie seems to focus only on the loss of memory function, neglecting much of the physical toll of the later stages of Alzheimer's. The type of memory loss depicted also fails to correspond with the progression of her disease throughout the movie. Another Hollywood narrative centered on memory loss is 50 First Dates. This movie follows Adam Sandler's character Henry as he tries to woo Lucy, a woman suffering from impaired memory following a car accident. The movie gives Lucy the fictional diagnosis of Goldfield syndrome, though her symptoms seem to mimic anterograde amnesia, or the inability to form new memories. The movie accurately portrays some elements of anterograde amnesia while misrepresenting others. True to anterograde amnesia, Lucy remembers everything with clarity up until her accident, but has no memory of anything from the year that's passed since the accident when she wakes up each morning. The inaccuracy comes when Lucy's friend mistakenly tells Henry that she has lost her short-term memory. But Lucy's short-term memory is intact, and she remembers all the events of her day up until she falls asleep. This incorrect dialogue comes from a misunderstanding of the length of short-term memory, which is used as a relative term in pop culture, although by definition only lasts for about 15 to 20 seconds. A more realistic portrayal of short-term memory comes through the character of 10-second Tom, whom Lucy meets at a brain injury clinic. True to his name, Tom's memory only lasts for 10 seconds. While the 10-second span falls slightly short of the accepted 15 to 20 used by most psychologists, Tom's character provides a better example as he cannot convert his short-term memory to long-term memory, whereas Lucy must have the ability to convert hers in order to retain all of her memories of the day until she falls asleep. In researching, I found that the movie is actually based on the true story of Michelle Philpotts, who was involved in 2 separate accidents that affected her memory. Similar to the character of Lucy, her memory is kind of stuck in a specific year, although her impairment seemed to grow over time, with her inability to form new memories emerging several years after her accident, following a number of epileptic seizures. Yet her case is not as simple as Lucy's. While she wakes up every morning convinced the year is 1994, Philpotts doesn't always retain her memories throughout the day, sometimes losing her memory after only a few minutes. She was actually fired from her job after making copies of the same document on repeat, forgetting she had already completed the task. She can't read books because by the time she reaches the middle, she's forgotten the beginning of the story. When interviewed by former Today Show host Matt Lauer, she actually forgot his name by the end of the segment. Similar to the movie, though, her procedural memory is intact. In the film, Lucy's character maintains her refined painting skills and can carry out somewhat architectural skills, building structures out of waffles each morning. In Philpotts' case, she can still remember how to drive, and claims she can repeat the pattern when physically dialing a phone number, even if she can't recall the numbers off the top of her head. Unlike Lucy's character, Philpotts is not faced with waking up to a stranger beside her. She was fortunate enough to remember meeting her husband as well as the details of the beginning of their relationship, but he still has to remind her of events past 1994. Every morning he shows her photo albums, including one from their 1997 wedding, to prove their marriage and the years that have followed. Perhaps a more accurate depiction of memory loss in Hollywood is the movie The Vow. So similar to 50 First Dates, the film is based off a real-life story of a woman who suffered from severe memory loss following a car crash. But unlike Phil Potts, Cricket Carpenter, the subject of The Vow, had no memory of her husband following the crash. This is because Carpenter suffered from retrograde amnesia, an ability to recall old memories. As a result of her accident, Carpenter lost her memories of the 2 years leading up to it, including her entire relationship with her husband and their recent marriage. In the movie, the character Paige has a more drastic memory gap. She's unable to recall the past 5 years of her life prior to the accident. Paige's character also has less elements of graded retrograde amnesia, meaning her memory would be worse for events that happened closer to the accident. Instead, she has a clear memory from years before the accident, before she claims her memory went blank, and she has zero memory of any events in between. Paige's characterization also differs from Carpenter's life in that the movie does not include her experience of having to relearn how to eat, dress, and bathe on her own. And while Paige goes through a period of transition, according to Carpenter's husband, in real life his wife's personality changed after the accident, and he claimed to only occasionally see glimpses of the woman that he married for a few split seconds. In The Vow, Paige does undergo changes in personality, although more temporary, and also suffers from mood swings. And like Carpenter, Paige never regains her old memories and was forced to carry on with the memory gap. Although the memory loss is lengthened for drama, overall The Vow seems to be more true to life than 50 First Dates or The Notebook, and aligns more with the psychological symptoms attached with the condition of the character, serving as a more accurate example of memory loss in Hollywood. Thanks for listening.